Total Warhammer is an incredible franchise, but it can be intimidating when you're first starting out. In this guide, I'll show you how to start with zero prior experience and guide you up to the mid-game where the real fun starts. It'll be so easy, even grandma would understand. Check the description for a link to the Notion page where the checklist is, and use the timestamps to revisit parts later. Let's get started. We'll start by clicking Campaign, then New. All the way on the right, we'll select Immortal Empires. In the center top, click on Grand Cathay, select Miao Ying from the Legendary Lord roster, and make sure the campaign and battle difficulty settings are on normal. So starting phase 2, first thing we're going to do is grab our alchemist here, have him join our main party here, which is where Miao Ying is. So if you right click, you get the option to join, and you can see here it increases the campaign movement range of our parent army by 10%. That's because our alchemist provides a movement speed bonus, and it'll get even more with more levels. First objective is to take Nanli down here, but we need to get rid of this rebel army in the way. We start out at war with these guys, so we can just right click on them and then go right into battle. Then we have a couple options here. We could auto-resolve. Problem with auto-resolve is sometimes you will lose a lot more troops than you probably should have. You can fight it manually in person, or you can retreat. Obviously, we're going to fight this one in person. The first time, I'll give you some pointers, and then we'll probably edit most of the other ones out. So we're here on the battlefield. I typically like to use my WASD to move around. So just like a first-person shooter, that'll move your camera around. If you want to look up or down, press middle mouse button and then use free look. That opens free look, so you can kind of zoom around like that. And if you need to zoom in or out, it's mouse wheel up and down. First thing we want to do is get our melee troops, which is going to be these three right here. So we have a peasant spearman and then 2 sets of sword infantry. These are the Jade warriors. So you can select them one by one and move them. This is horribly inefficient. I recommend never doing that. So what we'll do instead is we're going to click on the first unit we want to have in the group, and then we go to the last unit we want in the group and hold shift and click, and that'll select all 3, and then we can set them up like this. The other option is you can hold control and then you can grab manually. So this is useful if you want to get units that you can't shift click because there's a bunch of ones in between. So now I do recommend getting used to starting groups, which is this one right here. I highly recommend getting used to the hotkeys though. So if you press G, that'll start the hotkey group for that. And then anytime we press the number 1, it's going to bring up that group. Next, we'll do our range units, which is going to be the Celestial Dragon crossbow, the Jade Warrior crossbow, and then 2 of those. So same thing, click, shift click. We're going to drag these across right in front of our melee troops. The reason we want to put them sort of close to each other is if you click on any of these guys, you see this circle. This is the range at which their yin and yang bonus is applied. So these units are yang, these units are yin. You want to have a yin and a yang unit near each other at all times so that they can get the bonus. I think once we get into the game, it'll show us the bonus, but it's pretty significant. So again, don't forget, press G, get your hotkey, your hot group going. And then we're going to do the same thing for all these other ones. Now we don't want to group these together. These need to be separate. So we're going to do G, G, and G. Again, this seems like overkill now, but once you get good at the game, you're going to thank me for not having a bad habit set early on. So the reason you want these individual is because these units have spells that they can cast, and you cannot cast spells if you select more than one of them at a time. We're going to set it up kind of like this. So we're going to put Miao Ying up in the front. And if you hold spacebar, you can kind of see an outline of what everybody is able to do. So these units have a range right here. You see the cone. This is where they can shoot. We don't want Miao Ying to go outside of the range that they can shoot from. Later, when you're really good at the game, you can ignore these rules. But when you're just starting to learn the game, I recommend staying within this firing range so that you can bait people into attacking her, and then they'll get plenty of shots off. So we'll stay there. We do not want our caster, our alchemist, to be in the front line unless it's necessary. So right now, we'll just leave her kind of in between. And then our sky junk, this is basically a floating cannon. So he's going to shoot rockets and stuff at these guys. So we just want them off to the side so that they're in range, and then they'll do their own thing. So your formation should look something like this. Doesn't have to be exact. So we're ready. Let's go ahead and start deployment. And then focus on Miao Ying. Again, you can click on her. I do want you to get into the habit of using your hotkeys and not clicking down here. You can click on individual units. If you plan on using any of these, like this whole group of 2, don't do this. This is really inefficient. It's a bad habit. Instead, press the hotkey 2 so you can direct these guys. So in this case, Miao Ying is 3. We're going to select her and go. Now here comes cavalry. Don't worry about it. They're going to get plenty of shots off. We want everybody to hit Miao Ying because she has a lot of hit points. She can absorb all this damage. She also has a heal. So even if she takes damage, it's not a big deal. But you can see here, our archers are protected because the cavalry just got blasted by our crossbows. So we'll back up a little bit. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, the pause button is right up here. I have mine turned off, unfortunately, where I press pause. It doesn't let me issue commands. You should, if you have all your stuff on default, you should be able to issue commands when you're paused. But for some reason, mine isn't. But I think I probably disabled it. But yeah, if you ever get overwhelmed, just pause. Take a look at the battlefield and issue commands. But really all we're doing right now is we're just going in circles. Now you notice they have archers that are shooting at us. This is where you can use some of your micromanagement skills. So when you start to get shot, just go in circles, change direction. They shoot at where you are, not where you're moving. So as long as you change directions, all those shots are going to miss. And then they get another volley off. We just change it again and they're wasting their ammo. They're not hitting us. And we can really absorb a lot of damage this way rather than them trading shots with our range units. They're trading shots with our main character. So now there's the enemy lord. So this guy's pretty strong. He's going to take a lot of hits to down, but not a big deal. As long as our archer's in range, they'll take him out pretty quick. If you're fighting this a bit too easy, you can speed up battle here. The hotkeys are Z to go slower and X to go faster. So you can see here, you can go really fast. I'm going to slow it down a little bit while we catch this guy, hopefully. All right, now battle's over because they lost all their morale. Now, you can end the battle right now, and it wouldn't really be that big of a deal. Or you can chase them and get extra kills, more damage. Probably a good idea to chase people down, at least in the beginning, and then maybe towards the later stages, just ignore them. It's not a big deal. But for now, I would recommend chasing people down. So, and you can see here, I'm using my hotkeys. So I'm selecting my Sky Junk and just pulling him up here so I don't have to go back and find him. You just tell him to attack. He'll throw out a bunch of rockets. And then we move up to keep him in range. Like I said, this is kind of extra. You don't have to do this. We'll end the battle now. All right, so let's go ahead and end the battle. Now, if you have a really epic battle and you want to rewatch it, like in a cinematic mode, you can do that right here by clicking Save Replay. This is also very helpful if you want to find out what you're doing wrong in a battle or things that you could potentially improve upon. Because when you're in the heat of, giving commands, it's really difficult to kind of pay attention to everything that's going on. If you go back and watch your replay, maybe you'll pick up some things you can improve on. So let's go ahead and end battle and we'll move on. And you can see here on the post screen, we lost 0 troops. Miao Ying is the only one that got hit and she barely got hit. We do have a heal we could have used. I should have showed you that, but we'll show you on the next one. And then you can see here all the kills that our units got. Our blimp did pretty well. Our archers did, or our crossbowmen did really well. 136 kills. And at the end of each battle, you're going to get this screen right here that shows you that same recap, all the kills and stuff. More importantly, down here, you can see your spoils of war. So 877 treasury, that's basically your money you use to recruit, build buildings and whatnot. Some experience, which is going to go towards both of our heroes. And then over here, if you looted any items from the enemy, you'll get that right here. You also get 3 options down here. If it's a battle in the field, if it's a siege, let's say you take a town or a city, you will not get these options. But anytime you fight out in the open, you will get the option to get unit experience, army replenishment, or treasury. All of these can be good depending on what you need. In general, I usually stick to money in the early game. If I know I'm going to be fighting again very soon, or even within the same turn, you probably want to take army replenishment so that you can get as many troops as you can for the next fight. In this case, we didn't lose anybody, so we're just going to take the money. It's another 250, so we'll get about a little over 1,000 for that. And then we did pick up an item. It auto-equips it until you have too many items, and then you'll have to go in there and do it manually, but we'll show you how to do that later. Now, the next step is to take Nanli. So we used a little bit of our movement speed to wipe out the bandits that were here. We still have some movement speed left, which means we can attack. Now, if you attack a town, even if you're right next to it when you take it, you lose all of your movement speed. So try to do as many battles outside of your siege first, while still having enough movement speed to actually get in here and attack the town. So you can see right here, if I hover over this, it shows that we have 76 out of 110 campaign movement range still available to use. So we'll be able to get there without any issues. And you can see there's on the ground this green highlight. This basically means in the current state that we're in right now, which is no stance, we can move to anywhere in this green highlight. There's a second highlight right here. This means we can move a maximum of this distance if we change our stance. Down here in the bottom left, there's different stances that we can go into. If we go to march, you'll see right here, notice how the highlight goes from one to the other. See how it changes? So no stance is there, march is there. But there are some downsides to marching. You can't recruit when you're marching. Your troops are all starting the battle tired, which means they don't fight as effective. You're open to ambushes a lot more. And if you lose a battle, you cannot retreat after marching. You just instantly, everybody dies. So it's very risky to march. There's a lot of other stances. We're not going to go over what everyone does because we'll be using them later. But just be aware, you can change your stance right here. And that's what these two different outlines are. So let's go ahead and move our way down to Nanli since we do have enough movement speed to get there. This is a very easy battle. We'll edit this out. I already showed you exactly what to do in the last one. It's the exact same thing. Now, real quick, before we end this, I'm going to show you how to heal. Now, your healing is very useful for single unit entities. And by single unit, it's anything that has, not just a single unit, but anything that has a few troops to it. Like you see here, this one has 160 troops. That's a lot. So each one of these doesn't have a lot of HP. But like this lady, Miao Ying, she has a lot of hit points. I don't know, in the 8,000, something like that. Down here, when we click on Miao Ying, we're going to see some options to cast two different kinds of spells. So we start with a heal and we start with a slow. So we're going to focus on the heal. So you could either click this and then just click on the ground and anything within this circle will get healed by it. So you'll see both of these, our Alchemist and Miao Ying, get healed. It would also heal our Blimp or Skyjunk if they were low in health, but they're not, so it doesn't really help them. The other way to cast, if you hover over it, it'll show you the hotkey. It says Alt 1. So Alt 1 will actually cast that spell as well. And I do recommend getting used to that rather than coming down here and clicking on it. So the fast way, if you need to heal, you need to select Miao Ying. So 3, Alt plus F1. And you get, within a split second, you can have it. As opposed to coming down here, clicking on it, trying to find where it is, clicking on that, finding where you want to cast it, clicking on that. It's just so much faster. Here, I'll show you. So 3, and like that. Within half a second or less, you've got the heal down. And we have another 0 losses. And as I mentioned before, this was a town siege. So there is no option to take extra loot. You just get the town. We still get money, experience, and an item from this. So we'll go ahead and accept that. And we'll move on. So we're going to occupy. After you take a settlement, you have 4 different options. For the purposes of this guide, I recommend only focusing on occupying. Don't worry about any of these other things. So just occupy for now. You're going to keep the people much less upset and you do a lot less damage. If you do any of these other ones, you do get some money out of it. We want to keep these for the long term. So that's why we want to go occupy only. Now we're not quite done yet. We can't move anymore, but we still have a lot of things to get done. So go ahead and click on Miao Ying again. Down here, we want to recruit some more troops. So 4 is the hotkey or this button right here. Open that up. And we need to recruit some Jade Warriors here. There's 2 ways to recruit people. There is a global recruitment, and then there is a local recruitment. Now, when I say local, it means the province that it's in. So this is a perfect time to talk about how land is separated. So if I zoom all the way out, you see right here it says Gunpowder Road. There are 2 settlements within this one province. So the province is the big piece, and if we zoom in, each settlement has its own town on it. So 2 towns make up this one province. Some provinces have more than 2. Some have up to 4. I don't know, maybe even 5. But like if we click on this one, you can see this one has 3 settlements in that province. And then there are some that have literally just 1. So it's 1 settlement and 1 province. But we start with one that has 2. So when it says local recruitment, it means anything within this province. So even though the building that we are recruiting from is this training camp, and if you look right here, it's built in Nangao, which is our capital. So this settlement is where the building is, but this, because it's in the province, anything within this province can use the building. So I can be down here in Nanli and still use the recruitment building up here. However, if I cross this border right here and go to this side, I will no longer be able to use local recruitment here. I would have to use global recruitment if I wanted to use it. Now, the difference between local and global is pretty big, actually. You'll notice that to recruit these guys is 550. And if we want to use global, it's 1,059. So it's nearly double. The wages per month are the same. The upfront cost is a lot higher. It also, you see these guys only cost 1 turn. Up here, they cost twice as long. It's 2 turns. try to use local recruitment as much as you can. There are some instances where global recruitment is okay to use, but most of the time you want to try and plan it out better where you get everybody locally so they're cheaper and you can get it done faster. So we're going to train up 2 Jade Warriors. These are very strong frontliners that have shields, so they can absorb a lot of damage and then allow our back line, our archers, to get damage in. So get those 2 going. We'll close that out. Now we need to work on our territories here. So if you click on any of these settlements, it pulls up all the settlements within that province. So you can see Nangao right here and Nanli right here. There's another way to look at all your settlements up here in the top right. There's a provinces tab. Anything that we own will show up here at the top. And then anything that we know of but don't own, so these are other people's properties, we can see it down here. So if we click on this, it pulls up the exact same thing. Right now, it's easy enough to just click on this, but once you start to own land all over the place, it's a real pain in the neck to have to do that. So what I usually like to do is get used to working off of this screen instead. It's just a little bit faster and easier to use. So first thing first, let's go ahead and upgrade our military recruiting capabilities. So we're going to increase the Jade Barracks to a level 2. This will allow us to recruit those warrior crossbows that we already have. So we want more of them. So that's going to take us 2 turns. Next, we're going to build some things to make more money. So if you hover over this little trowel, this means that there's no building there currently, but you can build something there. So if we hover over it, we have all these different options. It's a lot to take in, so don't worry about it. We'll go over each one soon. Come over here to the resources tab and then click on the clay pit. So you can see this one has a trade resource of pottery. So we need a clay pit to extract that resource. That's going to give us a flat income of 100 per turn plus pottery resources to trade with other people. So we'll make money 2 different ways with this one building. Nanli also has a building to build, but you'll notice it doesn't have any resources to build. So if we come up here, it doesn't show up here. You can also see it just at a glance. If you look right down here, there's a little symbol that says pottery. If we click on something else, say down here, this one has iron. So Wengchang has iron. These other 2 don't have anything. So what we need to do is build a generic infrastructure building. So all the way here on the right, we're going to click on the wares market. It's the one kind of right in the middle. It has the yang symbol right here. So click on that. That's going to give us 150 income per turn. So once these 2 are built, our income's going to go up by 250, and you'll see this number change. Now we are recruiting people, which is going to use up more of our income. So we need to make sure we have a good enough economy to balance it out. So we're almost done. We got a couple more things to do. We need to assign skill points. There's 2 ways to get to it. So if we click on, actually there's 3 ways. So up here, Lords and Heroes, this tab, you can see this up arrow. That's going to tell you that you do have upgrades for these characters. You could click on them from here and then right click on their portrait. And then up here you have details, which is all the items. You have skills, which is where we'll select all the stuff. Probably the easier way to do it is down here. So once you go through moving all your people and building your buildings, it'll come up next with unassigned skill points. So if you click on this, it'll pull it up directly for you. But if you're not sure how to get there directly, find your character, right click on them, and then click on the skills tab, and that'll take you right here. So Miao Ying, we want to start with Route Marcher. This is going to give us a flat 5% campaign movement range bonus. We want to have as many movement range bonuses as possible, up to 50%. You can't go over 50, but 50 is huge because then you can attack a lot of people, you can take settlements, you can get in and get out quickly. So very important to do that. Now I'm going to have a couple different builds examples for you guys. It'll be on the Notion page if you want to see a screenshot of what it looks like, you know, different builds that you want to follow. So if you want a really strong character that can just take on a bunch of people by themselves, you generally want to go on this, the orange line. If you want somebody that's going to be a strong caster, casting heals and damage spells, you're going to want to go with the green line here. If you want to increase the strength of your troops, you can go Inspired Presence, and this will boost up. I would probably recommend doing things like the missile strength, maybe even increasing your Sky Junk effectiveness, or Route Marcher. So for this specific part, I'm just going to follow the Route Marcher and the blue line because this helps you on the campaign map. And I think this is personally probably the best one you can do first, and then you can expand into these other ones. But if you want these other ones, check the Notion page. You'll see builds to all those. So we'll start with attrition loss reduction. So minus 10% casualties suffer from all attrition. Very important to have if we're going to go into the chaos area. There's a lot of times that you'll take attrition. So by doing this, you'll reduce that. Not really the greatest stuff in this box though, but once we get further down the line, so we need to put 4 skill points in this box right here. So what we'll probably end up doing is putting 3 into Reassuring Presence and maybe 1 into Fervent. Then we can put 1 into here, and then it'll unlock the really good stuff. So there's a lot of really good things in this area. So like Quartermaster will reduce our upkeep of our troops. Logistician will help us replenish casualties faster. Great Bastion will do all that and more. There's Lightning Strike is such an amazing perk as well. So there's some really good perks in here that we need to get to. But like I said, depending on what your playstyle is, you can do any of these. Check the Notion page. Next, we're going to go to the Alchemist. And just like we did with Miao Ying, we want to increase our mobility first and foremost. So click on Increase Mobility. That'll give us another 5%. So we just picked up an extra 10% total. All right, so we're done with that. We need to move on to our caravan. So down here at the bottom of the screen, the Ivory Road. So click on this little caravan picture and it's going to show a bunch of stuff. If you want to move the map around, you can mouse to the edge, or if middle mouse click and then drag around, you can kind of look around. So Grand Cathay, any of the Grand Cathay factions have access to the Ivory Road. We can hire caravans, send them out. When they get to the final destination, they will get a special item the first time they go, and then they will also bring back a lot of cash. We need to hire a caravan first, so it's going to cost us some money. Over here on the left, we'll click the Recruit Caravan button. And then if you hover over this little title down here, it'll show you exactly what kind of units they have. So in this case, Shanyang Tais will give us some actually pretty solid melee troops, and then it'll also give us an Alchemist. Or if we do Western Idealist, it'll give us a bunch of random units. Looks like they're from the Empire troops. It's RNG as to what type of units you're gonna get. It really doesn't matter that much. There are some that are better than others, but for a beginner guide, you're probably not gonna have to deal with too many attacks on these in the early game. So just take whichever one you think is best. In general though, artillery and gunpowder are really strong to have if you can get access to those. Anytime you take big units, like if there's ogres and stuff, take those. But otherwise, just take any of them. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to take the Shanyang Tais because I do like having a lot of these halberds. They're very strong. So we'll go and recruit that. Next, we need to tell this caravan where to go. So we're going to choose our left arrow of the destination, and it's going to cycle through twice to Castle Drakenhof. You can also manually do it just by clicking on these if you see which one you want to go to, or you can cycle through on this. So we're going to go to Castle Drakenhof first. The money's not going to be amazing, but you do get a very good item from here that we'll want to put on Miao Ying. So we'll go there first. Next, we want to increase the cargo value. We want to go for the maximum amount, which is 1,000 right now. We can increase this number later, but for now it's going to be stuck at 1,000. So we send him out with 1,000. When he gets to Castle Drakenhof in 6 turns, he will return with 2480, so we'll have a net profit of 1480. Not bad at all, but we also, like I said, we do get an item out of it too. So go ahead and click Dispatch, and then the caravans always start right down here. So just to the south of where we are, there's Nanli. If you follow this road, our caravan starts right here, and then they will go to all those different nodes, all 6 of them, and then they'll eventually come back. So we're good to go there. We don't have to worry about doing anything with that. You don't control these guys manually, they go on their own. So it's set it and forget it. Next, we need to research some techs. So down here in the bottom right, we see the technology tab. Click on that. And then sort of in the bottom middle, you'll see this thing called Grace of Kuai Yin. This is a very good tech. It's going to reduce the upkeep for all of our range units by 10%. So if you click on that, you'll notice we start out right here with Season Tracker, but we need to get everything in between. So by clicking on this, it's going to automatically get the shortest route to get to that tech. So it'll also research Fletching Mentors, which gives us more ammunition for our range units. Harmonic Discipline, which gives us corruption reduction and income. Not really that big of a deal, but this is very important. So we're going to have a lot of archers, so we want to reduce their upkeep. So click on that, and then you'll be good to go. Hit the check mark. And then final thing, before we end the turn, there's 2 more things we need to do. One thing we should have done earlier, but I forgot. We do have a commandment available. So as soon as you own all the land within a province, you get access to a commandment. So if we click on any of these, you'll see this pop up in the bottom left, the commandments tab. There's 5 different commandments that you can use. So one increases control, research rate, corruption, campaign movement reduction for enemies. There's all kinds of stuff that we can use. There's only 2 that I would recommend using in the early game, and that's going to be control increase, or more importantly, the Fire Dragon's Edict. This is going to reduce recruitment costs just a little bit. More importantly, it's going to increase local recruitment capacity. So click on that. It doesn't take effect until next turn. You need to wait until next turn before it actually goes live. Now that means local recruitment is exactly what we were talking about before. You see right here, we have 2 people. If we had that edict already in, we would be able to recruit 3 instead of 2. So it increases your recruitment by a pretty big margin. We're good to go there. Final thing is we need to set our whooshing compass. This is, again, specific to the Grand Cathay factions. So click on this down here, the whooshing compass. There's 4 options for us to pick from. But really, there's only 2, because 2 of them are just not that good. So don't really worry about Warpstone Desert, and don't worry about Dragon Emperor's Wrath. I've played, I don't know, 200 hours of Grand Cathay. I don't think I've ever used these 2 once. Maybe I'm missing out, but I've done really well just sticking to the Grand Bastion and the Celestial Lakes, the 2 options on the top. Now, in the beginning, we're going to be conquering a lot of land, which means we'll have issues with control because people don't like being sieged and whatnot. So we'll start with Celestial Lake first. That'll increase our control and stabilize the towns that we take. So click on that. And then now we can't change this for, I believe, 9 turns. Yeah, 9 turns. So in 9 turns, we'll have the option to switch it. We'll go Grand Bastion. And in another 9 turns, we'll switch it back to Celestial Lake, and so on and so forth. There we go. So we should look something like this. We've got units recruiting. All of our buildings are being queued up. We've got research, a caravan, our whooshing compass is set. We got an edict in place, and our heroes have all their perks selected. So once you're done, go ahead and hit end turn, and we'll go to turn 2. As our caravan goes from stop to stop, they will have the option to get into an encounter. So right now, we could take on this unit, which is an Empire Captain. It's a single person. He's got decent health. He's a melee specialist, so he does pretty good damage. It's going to cost us 500 treasury to take him on, or we can just say no thanks, don't pay any money, but we also don't get the unit. When it comes to caravans, I do recommend getting as many good units as you can, and this is a pretty good unit, so this is probably worth the 500 gold here. So go ahead and take that. Now, you're obviously not going to get the same one because this is all RNG. Sometimes you get attacked, sometimes you get free money, sometimes you get replenishment, sometimes you get option to take different types of units. If you're getting attacked and it's only a couple of units, I do recommend fighting it in person. Sometimes they'll ask you to sacrifice a unit to or pay money out of pocket to do that. The strategy here with caravans is fight as many battles as you can without risking losing the caravan. If you heavily outnumber the enemy, take the fight. It's free money. It's just, and you're going to get experience for your caravan leaders. If it's a tough battle, like let's say they have just as many units as you or even more, whatever it requires to get out of fighting that, do what it takes. Sacrifice a unit, pay the money, whatever you got to do. But in this case, we're going to pay a little bit of money and get a $500 captain. Starting turn 2, first thing we're going to do is grab our army and come down here to Wangcheng. And because we took all those perks that increase our movement speed, we can reach it without having to take more than 1 turn. So let's go ahead and attack them. Now, it's going to be somewhat RNG dependent on what kind of items you're getting. In this case, we actually got a banner in one of the previous battles, and you'll see right here it sits up at the top. This particular one turns certain attacks into flame, and it increases the base weapon damage by 8%. So it's pretty good. We probably want to keep that on somebody that's going to be with the troops, so maybe our frontliners. You have to actually drag this thing around depending on which troop you want it to go on. Now you'll notice it has an effective range of 35 meters. So we don't want to put it on our main character or maybe like our blimp because they're going to be flying around attacking at the front line. They won't be in range to give the bonus. So we want to put it on one of our other troops or maybe even our caster. She needs to stay with the front line as well. But that's how you deal with banners. So I'm not going to show much of this battle because it's more or less the same thing. But always keep your main character out front as long as I don't have too many things that are going to completely destroy her. Mostly gunpowder units. Anything else is not really that big of a deal. And like I said, it's not too hard to do these battles without any losses. If you take a couple losses, it's not a big deal. You're going to take 1 turn to get your movement speed back anyway, so as long as you take light losses, you will replenish back to full before next turn, so it's not really a big deal. So again, we're going to occupy this territory. Make sure you don't do anything else to it. We want it in good shape. So we can use this down here to figure out what it is that we need to do that's still available for us to do. So unassigned skill points, let's go ahead and click on that. You can see we've got one for Miao Ying and for our alchemist as well. So we're going to continue down this line, reassuring presence. And then with her, we're going to, for our alchemist, you pretty much want to do the same thing every time. Searing Doom is really good. So we'll max out Searing Doom. Plague of Rust is also really good, so we'll do that next. We'll go over it as we go, but just so you kind of know. Searing Doom is a good nuke. Basically does a lot of damage. Plague of Rust is really good against very strong units that have a lot of armor. So like other enemy nobles or lords, strong single unit entities, etc. Take those 2 perks, And then one more thing we're going to want to do before we end our turn here is get rid of this building, the training camp. We already have one over here in Nanli, so we probably don't need one here. So I'm going to go ahead and demolish this one. And when it's done, we're going to switch this out for an economic building. It might be different in your game. Sometimes the buildings seem a bit RNG with what's going to be there or not. So if you have something else like an economic building already, go ahead and keep it. So we're going to build this same one, this Wares Market with the white yang. Also, coming back here, Nangao, we finished our clay pit, but we can actually upgrade it to tier 2. And the reason that is because the main building right here dictates what level these buildings can go up to. So you can see these can go up to level 3, but you can only go up to the highest level based on what your capital is. So in this case, it's level 2. Once we hit level 3, then this one will open up to level 3 as well. But we want to upgrade this from level 1 to level 2. That's going to give us an extra 50 gold per turn, as well as an extra 10 pottery. So click on that, make sure that's going. And then the final thing before we end our turn is to look at our diplomacy. The diplomacy tab is right here, or the number 7 for the hotkey. Now we're primarily interested in other Grand Cathay factions. So right here, the Western provinces, this is our brother. This is Zhao Ming. Then there's some other nomads. These are rebels, more rebels. So most of these we're not going to really have a relationship with, but there are a few that we definitely want to have some. So check with your brother, see if he's willing to do anything in terms of trade agreements or things like that. So if we click on him, then we come down here to initiate diplomacy. Anything in green means that you're able to do it without having to pay any money or offer any compensation. So click on that. He's actually going to pay us. If we click right here, this balance offer, this will balance the offer out to go to 0. You can see we're going to get a trade agreement and they are going to pay us 185 gold for that. So we'll go ahead and click propose offer. He's going to accept it. Now we are trading. We get an extra 60 or 70 gold per turn just by signing that one agreement. Next, we're going to come down here to the Celestial Loyalists. These are people that we want to be friends with. So if we click on their diplomacy, they're willing to do a trade agreement as well. Now, as soon as we sign the trade agreement, it actually increases their relationship even more. So by clicking on that, it actually opens up military access as well. So click that. Anything here green we want to take. So go ahead and do that. Balance the offer so you can get an extra bit of money. So in this case, it's 352. Now, it may be a little different in yours because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of RNG in this game. So just be aware, it may not be exact, but the ultimate goal here is to get as much diplomacy with these guys as you can. There's 3 that you really want to get close to. Your brother here, the Western Provinces, the Celestial Loyalists, the yellow one, and then the green one, which is the Imperial Wardens. So let's check them out next. They're interested in a trade agreement, a non-aggression pact, and military access. So these guys want all 3. Balance the payment out. We're going to get 578 gold from them, and then they're going to be very happy with that. Now you'll notice these guys are at war with 3 different factions. So they're feeling a little bit of pressure here. So we can use that to our advantage because there is an option here for taking all of their lands peacefully, which is, it's called Join Confederation right here. So if we join Confederation, we basically take all of their land into our territory, all of their armies become ours to control, their trade caravans become ours, etc. So we want to get to Confederate as soon as possible, and every time you click on one of these agreements, it increases the relationship. You can see right here, treaties with Imperial Wardens. Now it's going to go from 0 currently up to 35 soon. So it just needs a little time to get up there. If we can do other agreements with them, like a defensive alliance or a military alliance, this will go up even higher, and then it'll make confederating them much easier. There's some tricks we can do as well, which we'll do maybe in 2 turns. Yeah, in 2 turns, we'll pull out some tricks to where we can get these guys to confederate much easier. But I think that's it for now. So we covered quite a few things. We'll do another quick recap. So we spent our turn militarily taking Wang Cheng, getting buildings in order, and then spending some time getting our diplomacy in order. Now, moving forward, I do recommend checking your diplomacy at least once every turn until you get everything sorted out with your neighbors. After that, you could probably check it every 5-10 turns, something like that. But in the very beginning, I do recommend checking it every single turn. And then before we end our turn, let's go ahead and recruit some units at Miaoying. Now, we can't get more Jade Warriors because we are taking down this barracks. So if you queue that up, they will just not come out next turn. So instead, let's go ahead and get some archers. We need more range units in this party. So go ahead and queue up 2 peasant archers. So we got another caravan encounter. Now in this case, this is one of those ones where I mentioned you're going to get a lot of benefits from. So we can take either some melee troops or some more ranged troops. In this case, we have pretty much all melee troops. We could take ranged troops. The only problem here is we get 2 of them. If we take the melee troops, we get 3 of them. And these are halberds, which are really good. It is nice to have crossbows, but in this case, we don't have a full army just yet. So I probably would lean more towards the one that gives you more units. And most of what you fight against in these caravan fights are large units, which means you're going up against big ogres, single unit entities. And you want to have units like this. You can see right here on this unit card, it says anti-large. So these halberds are really good at taking those types of units down. Same thing with cavalry. So they have these wolf packs that can attack you from an angle pretty fast. These are really good at countering those. So normally I would say balance it out with some crossbows, but in this case, it's hard to turn down 3x. So we're going to take the halberds. Now, I forgot to recruit those archers on that last turn, so what I did is reloaded my save file, and I got a different, you can see we've got a different encounter here, so instead of the option between these two, we have to either fight these guys, or we get to give up one of our units that we just got. So obviously, we're not giving up good halberd units, so instead we're going to fight. And in general, the rule of thumb is fight when it's not going to risk losing your caravan. In this case, these are very low tier units, most of them all easily dealt with. We have counters to them as well. We have a lot of spears here that'll counter most of what they have. So let's go ahead and fight this one. Now you could, if you don't feel comfortable, you could use auto-resolve. When you're just starting out and learning the game, I recommend not auto-resolving anything. Try and take as many of these battles as possible. If you're not confident, you want to redo it, just remember every time you get to the end of the battle, you will have the option to restart the battle and try it over again. So if you want to try it, maybe get better results or just get some practice, try the same battle maybe 2 or 3 times. You'll be able to implement the things that you learn right away. Now let's talk about how to fight against units like this that we're going up against. They have some fast moving tiger packs. They have some ogres that are going to just try and bulldoze through. And then they have a main character, which is a melee specialist. They're just going to run through us. So what I would recommend doing in this case is try and get your center filled with shields. So we'll start with our shields here, right in the middle. Then we can put some halberds on either side. So we can get 2 on this side, 2 on this side. Now there's not enough room. So let me show you a couple tricks for moving and manipulating your army without having to spend a whole lot of time micromanaging them. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag and select all these guys. We need more room over here on the right. So I'm just going to select all these. If you hold Alt and then click on the whole formation, you can slide the whole formation around. So that's left Alt and then right click and drag it around. Now let's say we wanted to get a slightly better angle here. I can now, while I'm holding Alt, I'm going to use another finger to press Control, left Control, and that's going to turn it into a pivot right on the center, and we can change the angle. So let's say we want to change the angle with maybe the crest of this peak. We'll change it there. I'm going to let go of Control, and now I can continue to slide them around how we want. So let's put it right here, and then we need to continue to move this formation out so that they're not all bunched up. So I'm going to select all these guys again, and we'll just go ahead and add them to the formation like this. So we've got a nice strong formation with a very strong center. Normally they're going to try and flank you with their fast moving units, so that's why we want to put our spears on the outside. We'll do that. And then we can keep a couple peasant spears in reserve, because I'm sure they're going to try and bulldoze through and get at our archers. So if we want to add those guys to the formation, go ahead and press number 1 to select these. Then hold left Control down and then click on these. So now they're selected. These are all selected. And if we press G, it just slides them over. Now they're part of the formation. And again, if you want to move these around without having to reform the whole thing, hold left Alt, click, and then drag them around like that. We need to get our archers ready. We don't really have a whole lot, so not a big deal. We'll get our melee specialist in the front, our caster in the back, and then let's go ahead and start the battle. Now they're attacking us, so we're just going to let them come here. We don't need to worry about moving. There is a bonus that you get for your units when they're stationary for a long period of time. So these guys are braced. Not every unit has it, but our Jade Warriors definitely do. Right, they are casting magic. It is causing damage on our units, but it's really not a big deal. Now we'll go ahead and charge. So you can see they're going to charge their fast units on the flank, which means they're running right into their own counter. That's perfect. So click on the caster. This one has Searing Doom. Let's go ahead and cast one of these. I'm going to cast it right here. We don't want to cast it too close because it will hit our own units. But if we cast it somewhat on the back line, you can see right here, it's going to drop some spikes and it's going to shred everybody within. So those guys took some pretty nasty damage. Now, they will damage your own units, so like I said, try not to drop it where you're going to get a lot of friendly fire here. Now, we could also help with using Plague of Rust. That's going to make it so that their armor, they have less armor, and they're much easier to deal with. So we could just hold position. You don't need, when you're playing as Miao Ying, especially, you can play as defensive as you want. Okay, let's pull this guy. He's getting kind of low, so we'll pull him back. He's not very good at combat. These guys are really not good, the bureaucrats. The Lord Magistrate, they're really not good at all in combat. Yeah, he's going to run like a coward, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and send our peasants right here. So we're going to select our peasants and manually move them over here. I'm going to hold shift and then right click again so that they can move here and then charge. You don't have to, but it's a good habit to get into because sometimes you give an attack command and they'll just run through somebody else's formation and it's not good. So we'll send them back here. These guys are also anti-large. So if you look at their stats right here, they do have anti-large. This guy is considered large, so these guys actually counter this guy. We can also get our archers to target him, and we might need a better angle so we don't friendly fire too much, so we can back up a little bit. And then again, hold shift, right click, and then you queue up. As soon as they reach, they will start to get shots off. Now we could, if we really want to micromanage this, we could send these guys out to flank. Oh boy, they got our magistrate in deep trouble, so we need to get him out. Yeah, these guys are terrible, man. Really bad in combat. We'll help them out. Alright, I'm gonna drop a nuke. Try and get them to leave our guy alone. Yeah, we really need him not to die here. That would actually be terrible. Yeah, I'm just gonna finish this up. We'll send everybody out to attack somebody. Let's just have everybody attack. There we go. Kind of scary there. We almost lost our main guy. We'll probably need to replenish here so he doesn't die to attrition. Yeah, generally these guys are not good on the front line. You can see this other guy did the same thing. He was on the front line, but because he's a melee specialist, he actually knows what he's doing, and he was able to tank a lot of damage. So be careful with your caravan guards. Don't be like me. Now, normally, I would recommend taking the cash here, but in this case, I am going to take replenishment just so we can get a little more on our character, our main one. So let's take replenishment. You can see it adds just a little bit of health. Here we go. We are starting turn 3. First step is to attack and take the terracotta graveyard. And as I mentioned, we've got really good movement speed because of all the perks we took, so we can go straight from here to here in a single turn. Now, this is probably going to be the toughest battle, and I have noticed sometimes there's an army here. Sometimes the army's over there at Pomey up here in the corner. So this may not be the same battle for you. It's either going to be here or it's going to be at the next place. Either way, it's still doable. Now, this says it's a close victory. I disagree wholeheartedly, and we will fight this more tactically than what the AI would do with an auto-resolve. So let's get in there and fight. Now, for this map, we want to make sure we have a nice line of sight for our archers to shoot from. I generally recommend just taking the flat ground down here. You'll give up a little bit of a height advantage to the enemy, but it's really not a big deal. You could go over here. The problem is you'll have a hard time holding the wood line. They'll get in there and you just don't want to shoot at people in a wood line. Arrows are not going to be effective at all. Start our line over this way. We'll get the archers right behind them. Same setup as always. And then we're going to move back. As soon as we get in, we're going to move back with everybody except for Miao Ying. So start deployment, start battle. We're going to hold Alt and then scoot back. We just scoot all the way back. Now, because we attacked them, they're actually just going to sit passively. So what we're going to do is move up and harass them. We'll use our blimp, and we could also use Miao Ying. Oh, they're actually coming. Never mind. So let's go back so we don't take too much damage there. And you really don't need to adjust your lines here. For the most part, they're just going to run right into you. It's not a big deal. We can bait out their archers so that their archers don't come up to our line. And ideally, we can get more than one group attacking us. And then we're going to select our wizard. We're going to drop a nuke. They just bypassed. What happened here? Yeah, unfortunately, that's going to happen sometimes where they just ignore your character. And if that's the case, that's fine. We're going to go back and attack their archers. And we can also use our caster to do it. So let's go into them. We're going to drop a nuke right on top. And because they're engaged in combat, they're not going to run. If you do this outside of combat, they will run. They'll try and dodge it. So you can see here, we just did a massive amount of damage with a single spell. So pretty good. And then get your caster back. Our blimp is taking a ton of damage, so let's go ahead and pull them back. I don't want that to happen. It's not a big deal if he takes a lot of damage because we can just heal him up at the end. We have that heal spell, but Ideally, we don't want to take too much damage for free anyways. Let's get our Miao Ying back so she's dealing with these archers as well. And we're in range. Their archers are in range, so let's go ahead and manually target. We're going to select maybe these two. This one can target that one. These peasants are actually in range as well, so why don't we just target a bunch of different ones, and then we should be good to go. So here we go, Miao Ying's here to clean up some stuff. And you can see here, targeting is actually incredibly important. We haven't really done it too much because it didn't matter, but on a battle like this where it's kind of a big battle, you do want to target specific units. Ideally, you want to target their damage dealers, and range units are 99% of the time going to be the main damage dealers. As the damage dealers get close, keep an eye on your ranges here, or like I said, hold spacebar. You'll see where everybody can shoot, target them. You can also use your sky junk to target them before they even get in range. So like these guys, we can target. Yeah, they're going to get smashed pretty hard. So I'm going to speed this up. I think you kind of get the idea of this battle. There we go. They're running. Like I said, you don't really have to do a whole lot of micromanagement here. These guys do most of the work for you. So we lost 20 units in total. As I mentioned, they will respawn in the next turn because we'll be in a town. You get a really good replenishment from town. So don't worry about this. I should have healed before I ended the turn, but oh well, it's not a big deal. So we'll pick up 1400 treasury, almost 2200 of XP, and another item. So occupy this one, and we did pick up a Jade Sculpture, so this one increases the rank for units that we hire, so the Jade Warrior and the Warrior Halberd. Now we want to check what kind of buildings they have. This one actually has a decent building, these stables, if you want to build some cavalry. In this case, I think for this guide, I would recommend staying away from cavalry. If you're just brand new to the game and you're not really confident in your combat abilities, just stick to your front line and your archers. You can't really go wrong with them. You get a little more flexibility when you add cavalry, and if you're comfortable doing it, that's fine. But if not, I would just delete this, put an economic building in there. You can't really go wrong with that. Now the priority here, again, is our trade items. So we'll take the trade item first. Then when we upgrade this, we'll probably take that economic building as well. We've got another unassigned point to spend. This is going to be the final point here for attrition. And then on our alchemist, we can max out Searing Doom. So that's the second point. Every time you put a point into it, it gives you an upgrade. So in this case, minus cast cost, minus cooldown. Very important to get that maxed out. All our buildings are set. As I mentioned, before you end your turn, double check your diplomacy and see if anything's changed. So we'll come here. Our brother, nothing changed. Celestial Loyalists, nothing changed. And Imperial Wardens, nothing changed. Also, keep an eye on who they're at war with. So the Celestial Loyalists will get attacked by some very strong factions pretty early on. In this case, the Jagged Horn tribe, that's not a strong faction. So we can ignore that. But if they get attacked by one of the Skaven factions, like Clan Eshin, or by a Dark Elf, that is a very, very bad problem, because they will wipe them out quickly. So we need to keep an eye on that, and if they do get attacked, we'll have to help them. So Imperial Wardens, again, these guys should be confederating with us pretty soon, but they're not quite there yet for some reason. And finally, before we end our turn, let's recruit a few more units. So in this case, we probably just take more archers. We're in the final part of Phase 2, let's go ahead and grab our army, and we're going to go attack Pomei. Now this one's a little different. This is an actual siege. The capital, the region capital, will always have walls, whereas the minor settlements do not. So the ones we've been taking up to this point have all been minor settlements. This is the provincial capital. So this one is an actual siege. We can wait some time and construct siege engines. Not necessary. Don't even worry about it. This is such an easy battle. Now, the auto-resolve says it's a Pyrrhic victory. If we auto-resolve, we're going to take some pretty heavy losses. So in this case, let's fight it in person, and I'll show you, we'll probably won't even lose a single unit. So this particular town has a terrible defense. If you look right here in the center of the map, there's a gate. There's no towers whatsoever anywhere. There's no way they can defend it. We have more range units than they do, so we can just push in nice and slow. We have a massive amount of range units, and we just pepper them to death. So again, we're going to select everybody. I'm going to hold Alt, left click, and move them forward like that. Go ahead and send your alchemist to attack the door. So you don't need siege engines to break down gates and doors. You can just do it yourself with your units. We want to send Miao Ying over the walls, and I'll show you, this is something we haven't covered yet, but Miao Ying can actually turn into a dragon. If you look right here on the left, there's a cooldown of it when you first start, I think 30 seconds or something. As soon as that 30 seconds is up, you can do it. It doesn't cost mana or magic or anything, so click that, and after about 5 seconds, she's going to turn into a dragon, and then you'll be able to move her around. So she is now in flying form, and she has an increased, feels like she does more damage in dragon form, but she's much more vulnerable. Like her armor is less, it feels like. And then also she cannot cast most of her spells. There are a few that you can cast, but nothing in the early game, so we just fly over the overhead and look to pick off their archers. We want to harass their archers. You just get down here, start eating them, and then, as I mentioned, our archers are going to destroy them just by being alive and being nearby. And then we can also send up our blimp. There we go. So our archers are in position. If you want to target them manually, you can, but I would just let them do their thing. They'll do it on their own. Now, they seem to be attacking some target at the gate. I don't know what that's about. So we're going to give them attack command to shoot over the walls. There we go. Very strange. I've never seen that before, but anyways, you can see how quickly their units are dropping. So they're in a bit of a trouble. And if you're taking a bit of damage, just move away. She'll eventually start flying and you just go back over the gate. It's not a big deal. And then let's get our blimp up just a little bit more so he can start shooting. There, and you can see he just dropped a nuke on these guys. They're pretty much all dead now, off of one shot. So I'm going to fast forward this. There's really not much to say other than they'll keep pushing units up and you'll keep shooting them dead. There you go. We picked off their noble lord, so she got wiped out. They have only a handful of units left, so what I'm going to do is come up here with both Miao Ying and our blimp, and let's just speed this up a little by hunting down the people that are left. So any flying unit can just fly over the walls. It doesn't even matter. You do have to be careful. You can see here they do have some defensive towers, and they do hurt pretty badly if you leave them alone. Miao Ying can wipe them out without using any ammunition. You can also do it with your blimp, or your sky junk, but the problem is they have very limited ammo, so it's usually better just to use Miao Ying, knock down the walls, and then you'll be in good shape. Now, we did take some damage here with Miao Ying, and we didn't heal up yet from the sky junk on that last turn, so what I'm going to do is pull our dragon back here. We'll turn back into human form, and we do that by clicking on this button right here. And then we're just going to drop heals right here, get everybody back up to full. So we're actually going to end the battle with more health than we started with. Now let's talk about magic for just a quick second. So this spell, you can see in the top right, Earthblood costs 6 mana to cast. Down here is our Winds of Magic. This top part tells you how much you have in reserve. This bottom part is how much you actually have ready to spend. So at the beginning of battle, you usually start with a big reserve, but not a whole lot in the actual tank to use. So you can see right here, our recharge rate is 1 power for every 9 seconds. So if this thing costs 6 mana, then what, 9 times 6 is what, 54 seconds? So almost a minute. Yeah, almost a minute to cast one heal, unless you have a bunch of Winds of Magic saved up. So as I mentioned, you can definitely do this without taking any losses, but if you take a couple losses, don't worry about it. If you take heavy losses, I would probably refight it and try and learn how to do it without taking any losses. It is good to know. It's not necessary, but it's a good skill to know. So we'll pick up, same thing, money, experience, and we're going to get our provincial capital here. So now we own 2 full provinces. So if we zoom out, we wiped out the rebel lords of Nanyang. That's our starting enemy, so they're gone. We took all their land, and we have 2 full provinces. So the Gunpowder Road and the lands of stone and steel. And if we zoom in and click on this, you can see we have an economic building there at the capital. That's exactly what we wanted to build anyway, so we're going to leave that alone. At this other one, there's nothing built because we just destroyed the stable that was there. We're going to go ahead and put another economic building in there. The more money you have, the more armies you can hire, the faster you can upgrade your buildings. It's just, it's never bad to have more money. So prioritize that. Not always over everything, but I would say 90% of the time you prioritize that. We have some unassigned points. Let's do that again. We're going to put our final point into this area. Next time we get a point, we can go into Irrepressible, and then we'll start being able to level up this right here. Our Alchemist, we're going to go with Increased Mobility, because that does unlock at level 5. And then the final one unlocks at level 10, but until then, let's take this one. That'll give us another 5% campaign movement speed. And because we own all 3 territories in here, all 3 settlements, we can unlock a commandment. We're going to put this one on Control. So the Jade Dragon's Edict. Now we want to start getting some better units than this. We have some archers in here that are peasants. We have 1 peasant long spearman. Not the best option, but also not terrible. So we're going to come back here to our Gunpowder Road, and we're going to hire another lord so that he can start recruiting stuff and bring it over. So go ahead and click on that. These are those magistrates, just like the caravan guard. They're not very good in combat. You can use them if you want, but I don't usually recommend it unless you're trying to do something specific with them, Like, for example, some of these guys are really good at controlling territory. So increasing control and reducing construction costs is this guy's bonus. Some of these people have actual combat bonuses, which is kind of a waste on them, in my opinion. I instead prefer to go to the Dragon-Blooded Shugengun. There's 2 different types. So if you click on this, you'll see there's 2 types. There's the lower of Yin and the lower of Yang. You'll know which type they are by looking at the first couple spells that they can cast. So this one has the slow, also has a Cloak of Jet to turn people invisible. Not really that good of a skill, in my opinion, for this type of army. I guess maybe I don't use it very well, but I would recommend going lower of Yang. These are much more straightforward. They have a shield that protects your units from damage. They have a fire spell, another fire spell, another nuke. It's all very straightforward, easy to use, and very, very solid, good units. So between these 2, we have solid for some attack bonuses. These guys are generally not going to be frontliners, so probably not the best option. This lady will reduce corruption and income from buildings. Let's just take that one. I think that's the better pick. So we'll recruit her. Now we can start recruiting units here. We want to get more of these crossbows. So let's go ahead and load this one up. We can hire up to 4 here now. And part of the reason why we can do 4 is because, number 1, we have the Edict, which increases our recruitment capacity by 1. There's also an imbalance of Yin and Yang. So if you click on your settlement here at the very top, it'll tell you what your harmony is. Our current balance is +1 towards Yang. Generally, you want to stay balanced between the 2. You can see the bonuses. If we're balanced, we'll get campaign movement range of +20%, upkeep of -25%, and income from all buildings of 15%. So you make a lot more money by staying balanced. However, by going Yang, if you look at the bonuses for that, we have to pay a little bit more for our construction, and we lose 1 control. But we get cheaper units to recruit, they have a higher rank, and we increase the local recruitment capacity of 1. So instead of before we were only getting 3, now we're going to get 4. So within 2 turns, we're going to have 8 of these guys, and we'll be ready to go. Now, we could also recruit more units here. You could if you wanted to. I don't know that it's necessary, because what will end up happening is you'll have to delete these peasant units, unless you like fighting with peasants. I personally like to use better units and just have less of them, even though they're a little bit more expensive. So I would probably hold off on that, me personally, but you can recruit some if you want. I would rather get these guys with the crossbows, and then we'll also get more of the Jade Warriors. So again, final thing, before we end this turn and in this phase, let's check our diplomacy. So our brother doesn't want anything new. Celestial Loyalists, nothing new. Imperial Wardens, nothing new, but they're getting close. Yeah, they're getting very close. And I'm going to show you a couple strategies we can use to actually get a little closer, but let's do it in the next phase. So let's go ahead and end our turn here. So now that we've got 2 full provinces, we need to focus on expanding, and there's 2 ways we're going to expand. We're either going to do it through military conquest, or we're going to do it diplomatically. My personal opinion is diplomatically is by far the easiest and best way to do it, for a couple reasons. Number 1, we get to take over whatever they had military-wise, so their units become our units. The second, and I think is probably a little bit more important, is you don't have to conquer these buildings or these settlements. Every time you conquer it, you damage buildings inside. So if we can get them without conquest, it's actually much better. So let's go to our diplomacy tab and let's see what's going on here again. So check our brother, Celestial Loyalists, no change. And these guys they're still at war with the Puppets of Misrule, Kazag, and Yusak. So we want to maybe help them. We can do that by joining their war. So if we go over here on the right side, you see join war against. We can click on both of these. Yusak is actually a vassal of puppets, so they just automatically go with the Puppets of Misrule. So anyways, these 2 we'll go ahead and accept, and this opens up the option to join a defensive alliance. You can see right here, so even though they didn't quite want it, if we joined their war with them, they are more than willing to do it. And we have plus 15.6 here still to our benefit. We could balance it out with some money if we wanted to take money off of them, which I recommend doing. So we'll pick up another almost 2,500 from that. They're at minus 48 right now to Confederate, but if we keep an eye on them, they're actually going to go up quite a bit very soon, because they're going to get attacked by a very strong noble or enemy legendary lord up here called Village. So we want to help him with that. Let's go ahead and move over here. We do have access to their territory without trespassing. So if you don't have agreements with people and you go on their land, you will start damaging your reputation with them. See right here, as soon as I cross the border right here, you see this little hand with a scroll in it right here. So as soon as you see that, that means you're going to take diplomatic damage by doing that, by whoever's land you're tromping through. So you don't want to do that. We do have a military alliance with these people, so they don't mind if we're on their lands. So we're just going to come up here to the Turtle Gate, and we will help them defend the Turtle Gate. If nobody shows up, we will go on the offensive and start attacking village over here. So this should be good for now. We'll come up here and hang out by the Turtle Gate and see what they do. Now, when you join an alliance, you do get the option to build an outpost. Building an outpost allows you to recruit units from their faction. Now, these guys are the exact same as us, so we would have the same units as they did. So there's no real benefit to building an outpost in this case. I'm just going to cancel that. We don't want to spend the money on that. We do, however, want to spend money on upgrading our buildings and building out a stronger army. So let's wait one more turn to get this guy filled out, and then we'll figure out what to do next. But we don't have any buildings to build. Everything's maxed out. We're basically just waiting right now for things to grow. And if you look right here, these all need +1 population surplus to go to the next level. And if you click on your province, you can see over here, growth. We're at a +30 right now. We have 0, but once this goes all the way up to the top, it's going to go to a +1, and that's going to happen in 3 turns. So 3 turns from now, we're going to be able to upgrade one of these, and every time you upgrade, it pulls a number from here. So if you have, it looks like you can upgrade all 3 when it pops up. As soon as you spend that population surplus, then it'll go away for these other 2. So it'll make sense when we get there. But let's go ahead and end our turn. Here we go. Start at turn 6. We have the option to build something. So come down here to Nanli, and you can see because we have +1 surplus here, it's going to take 12 turns to get another one. But we do have one to spend right now. We can upgrade this. Now you notice instead of 12 turns, now it goes back down to 4. So there's pluses and minuses. You could build up surplus and then upgrade your capital all the way to the top before you upgrade any of these. The problem with that is by upgrading these smaller ones, you actually get extra growth, extra income. There's a lot of stuff that comes with it. So in general, unless you're trying to rush for a specific high-tech building, I would recommend upgrading everything as soon as it's available so that you can take advantage of that growth as early as possible. But there are some instances where you want to save up growth and you hold off upgrading your small settlements. Let's say if we had access to, say, like a really high-tech military building, then we would probably want to save up that growth until we can upgrade this to take advantage of that. So here we go. We have our first sighted village. This guy is really nasty to fight against. We're in no shape to do it right now with these peasants. So what we want to do is get this lady that has all these good crossbows all the way over here so we can swap units with her. If we move right here, that's as far as we can go. It's going to take about 4 turns to get there. Now, we can do it a little faster. As I mentioned, we can switch over here, our stance. We can switch it to march. Now, you want to do this in safe territory. Right now, there's no danger of us being attacked over here. So we're just going to go right there. And you can see we can do it in 3 turns now instead of 4. So it's quite a bit faster by doing this. And if we really wanted to do it faster, we could meet him halfway. And actually, we should probably do that. Village is maybe in range. Ooh, actually, maybe not. No, we need to stay here. So it's always good to check and see where your enemies can go. So you can see right here, he is in march stance. He cannot attack from a march stance. So I'm curious to see if he turned his march stance off, if he would be able to reach this. And I don't think he would. But just in case he is able to reach, we want to stay as close as we can. If he attacks this, we're close enough to where we will be pulled into the battle and we can help him defend it. We do not want to lose any of these. And the reason being is because, like I said, we want to confederate these guys. And if we lose a piece of land, by the time we confederate, we will not get that land. We'll have to spend time and resources getting it back and building it back up. So don't let your ally lose anything because, like I said, what's his is ours. It's like we're married. And we're -50. Even worse. All right, that's fine. We'll get there. So we're just going to wait. Let's go ahead and spend some time upgrading our buildings while we wait for our military to come online. End turn 6. All right, somebody is coming to us with a trade agreement offer. This is the Grand Cathay factions. Don't mind it. We'll get some extra money and they'll pay us 300 for it. That's fine. You always want to double check to see who their diplomatic relationships are with. So trade partners, if you do something against these people and they're trade partners, they will not like you. If you do something negative towards them and there's people that you're at war with, the people you're at war with will actually like you more. So you always want to keep in mind, so trade agreement will probably upset the Jiangxi rebels. I don't care because they're going to get wiped out soon anyways. But the Western provinces will like it, and that's who we want to have on our good side. So this is actually good diplomatically as well as financially. So we'll take that. We are starting turn 7, and our caravan finished its trip. We got 2,720 gold out of that. So let's accept that. More importantly, we get this thing called the Von Karstein Blade. This thing is incredible. So if you look at the stats, it gives us a passive regen of 0.1% per second, which is really fast. It also gives us some bonuses here. So Frenzy, we get base damage increase, charge damage, melee attack damage, and then we get another melee attack bonus here as well. So very, very good. The only downside is you get some vampiric corruption, but that's really not a big deal. We need to make sure we equip it on the right person though. So right now it's our caravan master that's equipped it. So we need to come in here, click on your Miao Ying, right click on her portrait, and then under details, we want to find that Van Karstein blade right here, click on it, and it'll move it over to our main character instead. Also, this is probably a good time to talk about equipment. You can see right here, we can equip up to 5 different items on this person. If it's a non-caster, I believe it's only 4. Yeah, they lose the wand. So looking at our items, we have a potion of foolhardiness that can go in this enchanted item slot. And this one gives us charge bonus, which could be useful. We do charge damage with her, so we'll equip that item. Looking at our ancillaries, we picked up a Jade Sculptor. These are already equipped, so we don't need to worry about that. But in the future, you're going to have dozens, if not close to 100 items in here and 100 ancillaries. Probably want to go through once in a while and just make sure that you've got a good mix of stuff in here equipped. And don't forget, you can actually equip these items on your companions as well. So our alchemist can also equip the items. Now, our caravan did gain some levels. They're not going to be able to go back out on another trip for at least 2 turns while they're returning back to the base. But we want to see where we're going to put these points. I recommend putting points here in the bottom. So I usually like to increase cargo capacity and better scales first. So cargo capacity means we can carry more stuff, which means we'll make a lot more money. And then we sell each of those items that we bring for 10% more. So adding these two together, you get a massive amount of money. Now, we do travel through a lot of territory, gives us some attrition damage. So hidden stores is pretty good because it reduces that attrition. And then when we do get ambushed, we'll have pretty much a full health army. If we don't have this, they will lose quite a bit of HP. Wayfinders reduces the chances of getting ambushed. Getting ambushed is a very, very bad thing. So anytime you can avoid that, it's very good. In this case, though, we have 2 points to spend. I would probably say cargo capacity and better scales first. We want to make as much money in the early game as possible. And then in the later game, we can worry about avoiding ambushes and replenishing. So we'll do those two. Let's go back to this lady, get her closer. She's almost there. Village is inching his way over here to the west, which means he probably wants to attack something that's not defended. So we'll see what he does. But let's take a quick sweep of our territory here and make sure that we don't need to build anything. No, everything's in good order. We still have 18,000 in the bank and 1,400 positive income. So we could probably complete the second army soon and then have 2 full armies. Again, we're going to go to our diplomacy tab and just check. The other thing on these Celestial Loyalists, we always want to keep an eye on their wars. As soon as they get attacked by somebody, we probably want to switch over to helping defend them so that we can take their land as well. So see, they don't want to do anything new. Imperial Wardens are ready to confederate. So there you go. Just by becoming their ally, we didn't really have to do a whole lot. And you can see here, Village is getting close. So that's making her very nervous. That's why she wants to confederate. As when Village was over here, it wasn't willing to do it. So sometimes, even though it looks like you're not going to be able to confederate, sometimes it'll just happen as soon as they start to attack. So we'll go ahead and take this, collect it, and then propose offer. And you can see right here, we just took over 4 new pieces of land. So we need to take stock of what we actually have. You can see here, this lady is standing out in the open. Not sure what she's planning on doing there, but we need to get her back to the gate so she can defend. Defending this is not going to happen. Village will very easily take that, so we probably want to get rid of this thing soon, but first thing first, let's get back to safety. We can't reach it in 1 turn just by this stance, so let's switch it to March. And we're still not quite there, but we at least get... Oh no, we're still taking attrition damage. So you can see anything north of the wall, you're going to take attrition damage. So you do want to stay near your towers as much as you can. There's a way to avoid attrition, which we'll show you in just a minute once we get these armies linked up. But for now, just stay at the gate and then you should be fine. Now we're checking right here. Village cannot reach this, so he can't attack it. We're good to go. We don't need to worry about it just yet, but soon we will want to switch this out. We own 3 gates. These are special buildings. They don't have the same buildings that these other settlements have. They also have an increased garrison. They are very easy to defend, especially if you have an army inside them. So let's look through and see. The AI loves to build terrible buildings. So you probably have to do a lot of tearing down. So in this case, we need to tear down the Bastion Gowl, whatever that means. If we click on this building or we hover over it, this option down here says demolish building. We do get a refund though. We get 600 gold back by demolishing it. We're going to go through and demolish all 3 of these because it's the minus attrition building. It's just not good. So we'll get rid of it, and the next turn we'll build the correct building, and then we'll be able to combine our armies and we'll be in very good shape. The final thing we need to do here is worry about our commandments. Each of these gates gets its own commandment. We can either increase casualty replenishment rate, increase unit XP. If you wanted to get your units ranked up, you could leave it on that. Great Bastion threat of -1% and corruption of -5. Now, we didn't talk about Great Bastion threat yet. That's this bar here up at the top. So there's this thing called the Kurgan Warband threat level. If that reaches 100%, it spawns a bunch of armies to come attack you. To be honest, they're really not that scary. If anything, it's good when they attack you because then you can get a bunch of free gold and experience for your troops and your leaders. So I wouldn't worry too much about this. As long as you have a strong defense on your gates, you shouldn't ever have any issues with that. I wouldn't worry about that too much. The final one is plus 25 growth and construction cost minus 20% for all buildings. This is by far the most important one, in my opinion, the Bastion Reinforced. If you have a lot of battles going on and you need to get some replenishment rate, take that. If you've got a lot of low tier units and you want to get XP on them, you could do this. I don't really find myself doing that too much. I would most of the time go with the Bastion Reinforcement. If you're really worried about Great Bastion threat, you can do this one, but like I said, just increase your growth. You'll be able to upgrade these to level 2 and level 3 soon, which means they probably can defend themselves. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and end turn 7. I'm going to move this lady back to the gate. Again, you probably won't have the same situation. It's going to be random depending on where this lady's going to be. Sometimes she's at this gate, sometimes she's here, sometimes she's out taking attrition for the hell of it. So let's get her back in the gate so she can heal up, and then we need to get her a proper army because this is not a proper army. Now, I do recommend, in this case, we need 3 buildings at all 3 gates. I recommend going for the growth first, because the sooner you get this up to, say, level 3 or level 4, the better, because, like I said, they can pretty much defend themselves. So this building all the way in the right, the Bastion Water Station, this is the one that's going to give us plus 20 growth. It also increases casualty replenishment rate, so it's good all around. There's some other good ones to consider. This one, the defense one, is not very good. This one that we already deleted, I wouldn't really recommend that one, but this one is very, very good. Bastion Watchmast. This one decreases the upkeep of our armies by 25% in the region. This one is very good to have, but I would probably prioritize growth first, and then when you get to level 2, then put in upkeep reduction. So I'm going to do all 3 of these with growth and get these things upgraded as soon as we can. We have enough movement here where we can swap out troops. So let's get up here and give Miao Ying a bunch of these crossbows. We can swap units. What we're going to do is we're going to click and then shift click to select everything in between. We want to get rid of all these bow and arrows. Now, we're going to be short 1 army here if we take all of them. Let's just take 1 less so we can have 20 out of a 20 with Miao Ying. We'll take 3 peasant archers back, and then we'll probably give it to this lady. We'll send her back to go recruit again from Nangao. Here we go. So we're going to sit in the gate and watch Village not attack us. He's probably going to go over this way and try and attack Dragon's Crossroad. You can see here he's actually in range. So by clicking on him, we can see his red border goes all the way up to here. This is for sure going to fall. So we have a couple options. We could demolish this building, which we should have done earlier because it takes a full turn to abandon the settlement. You do get a little money for doing that. However, that's not, in my opinion, not the best option. In my opinion, it's better to sell this thing and try and get some diplomatic relations with somebody. So these Chaos Dwarfs absolutely hate our guts. So if we go to our diplomacy, you can see right here, they are -48 and going down even harder because they just don't like us. We can get on their good side for at least a few turns if we sell this settlement to them. So let's go ahead and initiate diplomacy with them. Come down here to trade settlement all the way on the right. And then we want to find the one that we're trying to get rid of. So always, if you're not sure, just zoom in and double check. So this is Dragon's Crossroad. That's the one we want to get rid of. So we'll give that one up. And you can see this opens up quite a few options here. We can do non-aggression pact. We could do a trade agreement. We could take just straight cash. They don't have enough cash to eat up the whole thing. But we could do cash plus a trade agreement. Or we could get rid of that, take a non-aggression pact, and then take a little bit of cash. So we get 2 agreements plus some cash. I think this is probably the way to go. You will never keep your alliance with these guys. They hate you just naturally because that's how they are. these agreements will last for, 10, 15 turns, something like that. But it's 10 or 15 turns you don't have to worry about defending against them. You can focus your efforts on somebody else. We were going to lose this settlement no matter what we did. Even if this village guy wasn't here, we would want to sell this anyways, because we didn't talk about this yet, but let's look at what this settlement has. So if we go down here to one of our good ones like Pome, you see how it's got a green circle? It says suitable climate temperate. If we go over here to Dragon's Crossroad, it's red. It's an uninhabitable climate, frozen. The Grand Cathaeans do not like this place. Everything's more expensive. It's slower to build. Income's lower. Control's lower. Like, everything is lower here. So owning land that's red is very difficult to do. There's also yellow. I believe we have some yellow right here. So Wangcheng is also yellow. It's slightly more expensive to build here. Your replenishment rate's slower. Your construction time is longer. But again, it's still doable. Orange is doable. Green and orange are good. Red is bad. You can still make these work, but not in the early game. I don't recommend it. So in this case, we can really get a lot of benefits by just selling it to this guy. The other thing I forgot to mention is if your control goes really low, which this one is on its way to going really low. You can see here we're at minus 22 and it's minus 23 for next turn, so it's going to keep going down and down and down. If it gets down to minus 100, they will rebel and then you'll end up losing it anyway. So like I said, we get some benefit for something that we were going to lose anyway, so let's just take it. There we go. So village cannot attack that now. We have another building to make here. So in this case, we have 1 growth point to spend. I would probably prioritize on the capital first. So we'll do this one here. 4 turns, we'll have it done. Now, just because we confederated with these guys doesn't mean we stop looking at the yellow one. We want to make sure he doesn't get gobbled up by other people. Now, we are not able to confederate for at least another 5 turns from when you started. We already did 1 turn, so you can see confederation is 4 turns remaining. So we're not able to confederate for 4 more turns. But we got to keep an eye on these guys. They are still not at war with anybody else, so this is good. And we're only minus 13 for a defensive alliance. That's getting very close. If they go to war with somebody and we join the war on their side, they will very much likely join a defensive alliance and then eventually confederate. So not much else for us to do. We don't have any movement speed on our Miao Ying, so let's go ahead and end turn, and then we'll deal with village next turn. And Greasus, the fat man himself, is offering a trade agreement, and he's not charging us for it. He should probably charge us money for it, but he's not, so we'll take it. A lot of these things are going to be RNG. You may not get this, but if somebody wants to trade with you, just check their enemies. So by doing a trade agreement, it's going to piss these people off. I have no clue who they are, so we're going to accept. All right, let's go ahead and finish dropping some troops off at our middle section. So we'll give them all the archers, and then we're going to continue back this way so we can pick up some good units, and then we'll ferry them back again. Now, we do have enough movement speed here to attack village. You can see we can catch them right here. And if you hover your mouse over, you'll get a balance of power before you actually engage. This is very useful because it's kind of a pain not knowing if you can take somebody on or not. This says that we can take them on. As a brand new player, I probably would recommend against this because while it is a win, it's going to be a very difficult win for you. So in that case, we're not going to do it as well. We want to wait until we get much more favorable results against this guy. He may try to siege this down, and it looks like he might be setting up to attack it. But keep in mind, we have 12 units in the garrison, and we have, I don't know, was it 12 units here? So we have 24 units here to defend. It's not likely that he'll be able to defeat it, but he might think that he can, so we'll see what he does. If he does attack us, and he doesn't attack right away, we can march over there and help defend. We can relieve the siege. So not a big deal either way. Now, when you're not moving your units and you want to end the turn, you got to click this button right here, resolve or skip. We do have a caravan ready to go because he came back. Oh boy, I messed that up. Yeah, I messed that up. I was supposed to send this out as soon. We were supposed to hire a second caravan as soon as the other one came back. So we'll take Western Idealist, and then the second place we're going to go to is Myrmidons, and the reason being is we'll get a nice item that increases our economy. So we'll go ahead and increase the cargo value, and we'll dispatch them right now. All right, so we're still waiting for Village to either attack us or go away so we can go do something else, but let's go ahead and end our turn. Here we go, another caravan battle. We have less troops this time, but I still think we can take this, so we're going to fight it. It says close victory, but I think we can do okay. Again, if you don't feel comfortable with this, you could auto-resolve it, or you could just skip it by destroying. I think they wanted to eat one of our peasant archers. Not really that big of a deal. So no fancy formations here. We're just going to do a straight line. And they do have some fast units here. It looks like they're going to try and flank. So we'll go ahead and angle these guys just to make sure we don't get flanked. We want to keep our archers nice and safe. And as I mentioned before, these Lord Magistrates are not great in combat. However, they're already, if somebody's already engaged in combat, they can do okay helping out. Now, these guys are really trying to go for a flank. So why don't we cut them off completely so we don't have a flank for them to attack. Yeah, they're really trying to go wide. So let's go ahead and attack. Yeah, they're still attacking. Our flank's pretty good here, so we got to be careful. One thing we can do, though, is start to move our archers around into a flanking position and get shots on these guys in the back. Right, his lord is actually attacking us, which is super annoying, but we can't really do much about it. You can see here, we're not able to get too many shots off just because the AI does try to avoid some friendly fire, but they still do it. They still do it a lot. Right, as soon as we're done with these saber tusks, we're gonna... Oh, they're all falling apart, actually. So let's go ahead and move units here. We'll pull back a little bit, and then we'll try and pick off their big units. Same thing here. We'll pick off... There we go. They're just about ready to flee. Here we go. We at least got their general before he fled. There we go. So we lost 211. Most of them were spearmen. That's fine. But at least we didn't have to destroy a unit to do it. So again, with the caravans, I would play a little more conservative with these guys, because if you lose them, you lose a lot of progress. So we'll take the army replenishment here. If you didn't take any losses, just take the money. And it's been 9 turns. We can change the Wuxing compass again, so we're going to switch this back to the Grand Bastion. This is going to give us some replenishment rate boosts, recruitment costs down by 10%. More importantly, it gives us this ancestral warrior ability. This is very, very strong. So using this is pretty good in battle. It does reduce the Great Bastion by -2, so instead of 6, it's only 4. So it's really, I mean, it helps a little bit, but probably not that important. Now, one of our settlements did get sieged here, so what we need to do is, we don't want this siege to go all the way through. You generally either want to fight it right away or reinforce it as soon as you can. So let's click on our army here and attack and see what it looks like. It's a valiant defeat. That's not going to work for us. So decline the attack. So as expected, we need to get down here and help. So let's go ahead and march. We're going to get within range. So move her right up to the gate so that when we contest next time, she should be able to join the battle. And she's not able to join the battle yet. It's probably because she's marching right now. So we got to be careful with that. Let's wait a turn and get out of that. But we can upgrade our gate here. So at turn 10, we're able to go to level 2. Same thing with this one. We would normally be able to do it on this, but we're being sieged, and you can't build where you're being sieged. So we got to wait. Let's get this lady back there so she can start recruiting some more. And in this case, we don't have a front line on that one army, so we'll do maybe, let's get 2 of those and then a bunch of archers. Nunli finished its upgrade to level 2, and you can see here it opens up an extra building slot so we can build another building here. There's a couple options. Most of them are not very good. I would recommend sticking with infrastructure mostly for these. And in this case, we want to get a growth building. Now, we have already a yang building. So if we want to balance it out, we want to switch to building a yin. So right here, there's 2 ways to get growth here. This one provides yin. That's the one that we want. So click on that. We can also upgrade our income building going from 150 to 200 income. So we'll pick up an extra 50 by doing that. All right, before we end, check diplomacy. We're actually getting really close to a non-aggression pact with our brother, -2. If we really wanted to step up the pace of this, we could join some of these wars. It's really not going to change much. Like, for example, if we join this Burning Winds Nomads, these guys are so far south, they'll never attack us. But we could get some goodwill by joining the war. So let's do that. If we offer to join their war. We don't ask them to join ours because we don't need it. We want to get the goodwill here. That's enough to open us up for a non-aggression pact with just a little bit of money, 200 gold. So there we go. Now we need to push a little further for military access, which we can do maybe right before these guys get taken off the map. We only joined one of the 2 wars. So as soon as this guy gets up here and they're threatening to take Shrine of the Alchemist, we could join the war and then, reap a little bit of benefit from it. Our caravan gets the option to take on 3 Jade Warriors or 2 Peasant Archers. That's not even... yeah, we're going to take the Jade Warriors. Now, Village decided to back off, but he wanted to stay to raid. So for some reason, he's still here. Now, we are going to have 2 armies versus 1. So what we want to do is not attack him with the first one. We want to move this army close enough so that they can support. So when you see an army When you hover your mouse over it, you see this red, there's like a red circle going around them. That's their area of engagement. So you can't move inside somebody's area of engagement unless you're actually attacking them. But if we go right up to the edge, you can see here, right up to the edge. Now if we take Miao Ying and then attack, you can see that there's a line going from this army to village, which means they will actually reinforce if we attack. So let's go in there. Probably going to run. Yep, he's going to run. We have a lot of movement speed, so we should be able to keep up with them. So let's move again. And you can see here, we just move again, keep up with them. Now, two things are happening here. When they run, that means they give up their chance to retreat inside the battle. So all we need to do is win this battle. Even if they all flee and nobody kills anybody, their army is completely wiped out. So if you lose a battle and you haven't fled yet, or you're not in the marching stance, you have the option to flee with whatever remnants of your army and they can recover. But like I said, they ran once already, so they're done. If they lose this, they just die. So if we check auto resolve here, if I hover my mouse over auto resolve, we don't take any losses in either of our armies. This is very, very favorable. It's a decisive victory, which means we shouldn't take too many losses here. In my personal opinion, I would probably auto-resolve this, or maybe create a save file. Try the battle, see how you go. My personal opinion, this is a very tough battle. Village is tough. He has a lot of really annoying units to deal with. Even though we have twice his numbers, or more than twice his numbers, it's still not an easy battle, and we will probably lose a decent amount of units. They're giving us a decisive victory here. My opinion is this is a good auto-resolve for us. So we're going to take it. It's going to wipe out every single unit that they had, which means we'll get a ton of experience from it. We take some casualties, but it's nothing we can't recover from, so no big deal. And you can see, because we took out a legendary lord, we got a lot of money. So almost 4 grand there, 4,600 XP, and an item. We could also take replenishment. We're not going to do that because he's going to offer us 1,300 for it. So we'll take the money. We got about 5 grand just for fighting this guy. And anytime you defeat a legendary lord, you do get it's called their defeat trait. So defeating village gives +5 melee defense and then +10 winds of magic power reserve capacity. So that's basically means you can cast more spells during battle just by defeating him once. So we got that. Now we're out here in the area where we will take pretty significant damage if we just sit here. There is a stance that negates that. So if you go down here to your stances, it's the 4th one down in camp. I'm going to click on that. It does reduce your movement by quite a bit, but it also allows you to not only are you not taking damage here where you would normally take attrition damage, but we're actually gaining reinforcements. So really good move to do. In this case, this lady, we want to get her back to the gate because you replenish faster in a settlement than you do out in the open. So let's get her back. She's got movement speed to get back, and you can see within like 2 turns, should be back to full health. 2 more turns, and we'll have more reinforcements that we can ferry back and forth. So we'll probably wait for that, and then we'll also move our character back to this gate so we can defend. We could also go on the offensive here, and we might actually do that just to take out village. We won't have to deal with him if we do that. The downside is we give up the option to defending this guy because our main army is going to be over here. So we have to be careful with that. But looking at here, he's not at war with anybody, so we should still be able to confederate him in the near future. We just need him to go to war with somebody so we can help. When it comes to diplomacy, I showed you how to do it manually. There's also this thing called the quick deal. This is really easy to see who's willing to do one action among everybody on the map. You do one action at a time. So non-aggression pact, we're pretty close to Clan Krizor and the Golden Order. Trade agreements, nobody's really that close to us. Military access, not even close, and then it gets worse and worse the further down we go. And then if we want to sue for peace, these people aren't ready to do it, but that's not a big deal. So not much to do there. Let's just go ahead and upgrade our gate. This one needs to go to level 2 as well. We'll assign our point. So this is our first point into Irrepressible. And then we can go either Quartermaster, Logistician, or Lightning Strike. If you are a very aggressive player, I recommend going Lightning Strike first. This enables a special ability where you can attack somebody and their reinforcements will not be able to join. So let's say you want to attack somebody that's surrounded by 5 of his friendly armies. You can get in there, fight that one army, and then get out. If you have enough movement speed, you can get back out. The only downside is your troops are exhausted when they go into battle, but that's really not a big deal. You can just sit in the corner and get that back before the battle starts. If you're not a super aggressive player and you don't plan on taking fights like that, probably go quartermaster. And the reason is upkeep reduction is super important. The more money we have, the more armies we can field, the more battles we can take all across the map. So that's probably my recommendation. And then our alchemist here is ready for an upgrade. We got 2 points. Let's put it both into Plague of Rust. Again, this one is really good for taking down tough targets like enemy legendary lords. So if you look right here, it reduces their armor by 60 and it lasts for 44 seconds. It's plenty of time to wipe somebody out that's got really, really high armor. And then because we helped with our secondary army here, we need to upgrade her as well. So she's got some spells here. Oh, this is the one we inherited. She doesn't have the good spells. That's fine. We can deal with it later. First thing you should always take is Route Marcher. Definitely put 1 point into there and then probably start putting points into the spells so you can go down the spell line. But I don't like this one nearly as much. Yeah, I usually recommend the other one, but like I said, we inherited this lady. We can swap her out if we want, but we'll just keep it simple. We'll just use her. It's fine. We'll make it work. So this brings up a good point. So we didn't get the option here saying that you had an upgrade available. So it is usually a good idea to go through and check all your buildings. Again, you can go through manually, click on them, or you can just drop this provinces tab and just click on all the ones that you own and see if there's any, like in this case, there's a hammer right here. So we know we need to upgrade this to level 2. And then everything else is done. So let's go ahead and end our turn. Right, we're getting attacked again. We'll fight this one. Jade Warriors in the center. They can handle the Noblars very easily when they come up. We've got pikes on the flanks because that's where these units that we can counter are going to be. And then I think what we'll do is let's try and focus down their enemy lord because that's usually the one that's going to cause us the most trouble. Yeah, let's go ahead and countercharge these guys. All right, we're going to go ahead and attack across the line except for our Jade Warriors. Generally leave them standing still so they can get their bonus for standing still. And we'll continue to attack this guy from afar with our archers. We will get some friendly fire here, but it's worth it. We need to wipe this guy out. And we might get flanked here. Yeah, see, they're trying to flank. So it's fine. He is sending his saber tusks around to flank. Unfortunately, we don't have a free unit other than our magistrate, which is not ideal, but we'll make it work. There we go. His lord's actually ready to flee, so we'll deal with that. There we go. He's gone. Let's get our spearmen back here to help out because, like I said, our magistrate is just dog crap in battle. It's not good at all. Let's switch our focus here. These guys are exposed. They wiped out one of our archers. Can't do much about it. We didn't have enough units to cover everything. Yeah, so they're just going to keep trying to cycle charge our archers. So keep trying to move them. Get in their way with your spears if you can. Dude, this guy is so annoying, man. There we go. We got him. So we took decent casualties there, but we survived. And as I mentioned before, the more battles you do, the easier it gets because these guys are all going to rank up and get more experience. We'll get more perks for our caravan leader. It's all very good. We got a unit. I don't know what that's from, but we got an astromancer. So we'll take it. These guys make really good spies. You could put them in an army as well, but I find that they work really well for stuff out in the field. So you can use them to wound enemy agents. You could steal technology, things like that. So like in this case, we could probably use him to go spy on villages' territory and then try and steal some tech. So we'll send him over there. Now, we are still recovering, but as long as we are in this encamp stance, we can continue to gain troops while we're able to move on the enemy fortress. So why don't we do that? We'll build up all the buildings we can while we're still here. And again, prioritize trade. Home, we got the trade going. We finally finished our research here. Upkeep minus 10% for yin units or range units. We need to change our tech. We could take the other half of this and get minus 10% for all the melee troops, but I think it's better to continue on the ranged. So base missile damage plus 20% for yin units. Let's do that one. It's all the way in the bottom right. We'll pick up harmonic mastery as well, which gives us 10% more income from cities, but really this is the important one. So do that one next. I just realized we're actually trespassing on this guy's land. I forgot we didn't have the military alliance. So let's get out of his land so we don't piss him off too much. Most likely it's going to be hard to take this guy's territory anyways. He's probably already got an army. You could see his vassal has a full stack here as well. So if you're comfortable with battles, you could do it, but it's a little more of an advanced move. But like I said, just hold the gates. This is the most important thing right now. Hold the gates and then keep an eye on the yellow guy.
If he goes to war with somebody, you need to help him out, but otherwise you should be in pretty good shape here.
Up to this point, most of these steps are predictable and repeatable, but the further away from the start we get, the more RNG will steer your campaign one way or another. It's hard to give exact steps past this point, but in general, you'll want to continue to work towards confederating the yellow flag Celestial Loyalists and pushing south through whichever enemy is in your way. In this case, I ran into both the Skaven, a rat faction that emphasizes quantity over quality, and the Dark Elves, who have very strong units. Stay patient, take smart fights where you stand to lose very few units while wiping the enemy out, and continue to expand southward. Try to confederate any Cathayan faction that's still around, and eventually you'll have a campaign that looks something like this. All of Cathay united under one banner. Let me know if there's anything in this guide that was unclear, and I'll try to help out in the comments. Make Grandma proud and go forth to unite Cathay. A huge shout out to the YouTube members and Patreon supporters who help make guide content like this financially viable. I appreciate your help. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.